In this video, I'll be going over the steps involved in making this cute little skeleton and wither skeleton from Minecraft. I have a free downloadable sheet that you can save or print out. It has the list of colors I used and the amount of pieces for each body part. I will link to that in the description box below. Starting with the head, this is made up of 12 pieces. Condition the clay and shape into a cube. Lightly mark out the facial features, then indent with a sculpting tool. I pre-baked some thin sheets of grey clay and cut them into small squares. With a pair of tweezers, I place on and press in these details around the head. Adding a needle tool to the bottom, then bake the head. Place a small amount of grey clay into the nose area, then black clay into the eyes and mouth area. Moving on to the rib cage, this is made up of one piece. Condition and shape into a rectangle. With a needle tool, mark out 2 lines, creating 3 even sections. Deepen these lines and continue them around the sides as well. If you have a square drive bit, then indent some random squares into the rib cage. If you don't, you can also press in some of the pre-baked squares from earlier. The spine is made up of half a piece. Roll it out until it is longer than the rib cage, then shape into a rectangular prism. Place a small length of wire with some bacon bond into the underside of the head. Place the spine behind the wire and blend it into position. Then place the rib cage in front of that, pressing the wire between the two. The hip is made up of one piece. Condition and shape into a rectangle that is the same width as the head. With some bacon bond, carefully place into position. The arms and legs are made up of half a piece each. Shape these into long, thin rectangular prisms. Make the arms a bit longer than the legs. My youngest son is sculpting a skeleton alongside me and he's doing such a good job.
Mommy, I'm just trying to think how I just want to make my own skeleton.
Yeah, you can make your own skeleton doll. Bake all these pieces, then place some grey clay into the squares on the body. I had a bit of trouble trying to figure out how I was going to make the skeleton weapons so small. These were my first attempt and they are way too big. For the bow, roll out a length of brown clay and then curve it into shape. Check the size against one of the baked arms. Very lightly flatten it onto a piece of baking paper. Roll out a thin piece of grey clay for the string of the bow. Add a pre-baked square to the center of the bow, then bake it. Now we can superglue him together. I want him to be in a walking pose, so the arm holding the bow is swung forward and the other arm is swung back. The legs are glued on in the opposite direction of the arms, so it looks like he is walking along. Moving on to the wither skeleton. I tried wrapping strips of darker clay around the head, but I didn't like how this looked, so instead I used a square cutter roughly the size of the head. I then cut out 4 medium grey and 3 dark grey squares. Stacked these together, alternating between the colours. Yep, I am much happier with this style. For the most part, the following steps are the same as the normal skeleton. For the spine, I decided to put the wire through the centre, then into the hip bone. I decided to have the wither skeleton sitting down only because I wanted it to be a bit different than the other skeleton. I made the legs longer because the wither skeleton is much taller in-game anyway. I cut out a small triangle from behind the knee, then folded it together to create a bend. Again, the sword I made earlier was way too big. Instead, sculpt a long teardrop shape, then wrap a darker length around that. Same for the crossguard and the grip. Cut out a little triangle for the grip to sit into the crossguard. Lightly score a crosshatch pattern to give the impression of it being made up of squares. I then placed some pre-baked squares down the center. Place all these pieces in the oven, then we can glue them all together. I think they turned out pretty cute and my kids love them. My Minecraft mobs collection is definitely growing. Lydia from Mojang Studios commented on my Instagram post, which is so cool. And she is so cool. She is so fun to watch on Minecraft Lives with so much energy and excitement for the game.
Thank you for watching and I will see you next time.